Hello, we're John and Elizabeth. We've just arrived on the Hamble after our last sail of 2022. Very breezy today, so we came down last night, had a very quiet pint on the Hamble itself, but this morning we got up, we had a little bit more of a drama as we managed to get a rope caught round our propeller in the middle of the river itself, but we're safely alongside. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Our final journey was to get from Portsmouth over here along to the Warsash and the Hamble River in order to get the boat into a shed over the winter, because there is a piece of work that we want to do in terms of anti-fouling, and James has very kindly offered us a couple of weeks in his shed. So we looked at the weather and it was looking decidedly lumpy on the Monday, so we set out on Sunday mid-afternoon. Wind was due to be in the southeast, so we thought it would be pretty straightforward. Little head sail on this time, got out of Portsmouth Harbour, and it was about 20-25 knots of breeze, and the heavy weather jib did us pretty well. We got out, there was just enough water, actually a reasonable amount of water to get out down the inner swashway at Portsmouth, and this is us. Very, very fine reaching along the Hasler wall with just the head set up. Very wet. I don't know if you can see it too well here, but it was pretty overcast. The visibility wasn't great. There was a fair bit of driving rain coming in, and we were quite happy doing 4.5-5 knots under head sail alone, knowing that putting the main up would have made it a lot more heavy work. So we set off and we were making reasonable progress, and we were very happy with how it was all going, with an anticipated arrival time on the Hamble just after sunset and just at about the time that the tide was slack, making getting alongside just that little bit easier. Once we'd got round Gill Kicker, we were able to put the wind a bit further abaft the beam. It actually went a little bit flatter, all the visibility stayed completely rubbish. We got the main up and started to get going quite nicely. Very pleased with how it was all going. Not much in the way of traffic around, just a few merchant ships. There was only maybe one other sailing boat that we saw, and the visibility was up and down, and as I say, it was properly wet. Just in order to make an entrance just about the time of sunset, it was still quite a lot of flood tide here, and what we wanted to do was get up into Hamble village itself rather than being at the harbour entrance, so that worked quite nicely. You can know it, this is Hamble Town Quay. It was really nice to get alongside there. Wind was from the south, half tide, flood tide, all very straightforward. So literally the last half mile of this trip should have been nice and easy from Hamble to Hamble Point, but it had blown up overnight, so we were seeing 40-45 knot gusts, steady at 30. We'd been bouncing around quite a lot, even up the river, so we prepared fully for going to sea, fully foul weather geared, nav lights on, mainsail attached, all the instruments on, as if we were going to be going on a much longer journey. Once we'd got ourselves sorted, then it was relatively straightforward to get away, because it was pretty much slack water and the wind was blowing us off. So let go the head rope and let go the stern rope, and off we went and motored our way into the main channel, and we were heading down and doing our normal preparations, because our next alongside was meant to be Portside 2. So because we were in the river, we did our normal preps, putting the lines ready to go, thinking that we wouldn't have anybody to hand to help us as we got there. But all of a sudden the engine simply stopped. I tried it again, but it didn't start. I bore away while I had some way on, thought I might get alongside another boat moored, but couldn't. By this stage I thought I'm going to need to get the head sail out, so that went out. I was able to then bear away and back into the channel before it got too shallow, which was handy. Tried to restart the engine with no real joy. knew now I had a couple of options, either anchor or try and get up the river. I tried to get up the river because that was going to be better, but I could not get the boat round on just the head sail, which is a useful learning point to me. So I was going to go down the river and either get the main up or anchor, and then we spotted a very clear pontoon. So we got the head sail away in order to reduce the speed, turned the boat, waggled the boat to slow her right down, couldn't get the bow into the wind, but we did manage to get a line onto the jetty without touching it. Then we managed to get our fenders and berthing ropes all sorted out. It wasn't the tidiest alongside I've ever done, but there was it was all very straightforwardly calm by the time we got there. Got the fenders in, got enough ropes on. Realised at this point that, as you can see, the head sail is flapping away like a mad thing. So we rolled that out and rolled it back up again in order to get it all sorted out, but it had wrapped itself a little bit, so got it away nice and tight, which is good. And then we continued to tidy up where we were, but then we saw where the line was, started the engine in reverse to see if that would free it off, but it didn't, so we brought it back to where the propeller was, and then tried again, and out it came, quick as a flash. We then thought, right, okay, let's get ourselves back down to where we need to be, because we didn't want to be getting there on the ebb tide, or too much of a strong ebb tide. So engine tested both ahead and astern, and then we were off. So thankfully we were now pointing the right way down the river. George and James appeared in their rib. We'd managed to get a quick telephone call into them, and they'd come down. It was really handy knowing that they were not very far away. What they then told us, which was they managed to get us a different berth, and we were going to be starboard side too. So we rigged back for starboard side too, and as I say, motored our way all the way down to the entrance to Hamble Point Marina, threaded our way through the pontoons, and as we got closer to the marina itself, and particularly just as we turned into where the boat lift is, it's very much in the shelter. The wind dropped quite considerably, and we were able to turn the boat very nicely into its berth. George and James took our lines, and we were tied up nice and sound. Oh yeah, well, we're sitting just at the side of the Solent on our way back to swap over cars, and we're just looking at the sea stay, and it is properly windy. Yeah. Very, very pleased that we travelled over yesterday.
I don't think I'd like to be out in this, for sure.
No, it's a little bit grim. Just recapping on our little incident with the rope. I think as we look back on it, we realised really quickly that there was something around the propeller, that it wasn't an engine problem, because we managed to get the engine restarted pretty quickly. Tried to run it in astern to unwind it. That didn't quite do anything because the engine kept stopping. We got a small head sail up because getting a main sail up would have been too difficult to do and would have powered us further in the wrong direction. Once we got the little head sail up, we were able to get ourselves back into the deep water in the river, but we were then heading up the river, which comes to a natural conclusion, of course. Tried to tack and then jibe round, but with just the head sail and the way the breeze was, as we started to come through the wind, we just did not get it going, and we couldn't get going long enough on a beam reach to get us through. So we wound the sail away and turned and managed to put ourselves onto a tiny little bit of jetty. Not the most elegant alongside in the world, but
no, because we came to it
pretty much head on. I couldn't turn the boat up into the wind, but we were going dead slow by the time we got there. Managed to get ashore, get two lines on, sort ourselves out, and then we were able to have a look at the rope and actually move it to the right place, and it came out really easily. And we were heading back down to where we were going, probably within about 20 minutes, but it felt like ages.
Yeah, because James and George came up from Yachting Sports, but by the time they arrived, we had sorted the problem out. But they were very kind in getting us as close to the lift as possible.
Yep.
And they were there to get our ropes when we went alongside.
Yeah, so all a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing my elephant ears anymore, especially when it's
Well,
windy.
Especially when it's windy. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think also, on reflection, I may have, because I knew it was a very, very short journey from the pontoon that we had moored overnight to where the boat was being lifted out. I thought I'd just rig the boat portside, and in hindsight, I should have waited because of the conditions.
Well, we were leaning right over inside the river.
Yeah.
Oh well. Live and learn. No animals were hurt in the filming of this video?
No, and I'm sure we'll come across other situations like this as we continue our sailing journey.
Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you find it useful.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.